A customs officer intercepted a box at an airport addressed to an individual. Inside the box, he found between 5 to 7 pounds of cocaine. Now, even though the box had the recipient's address, the way it was shipped, it required the recipient to actually pick up the box in person. So perhaps it would have never been delivered to the address that was listed on the box. Now, the officer then gave the box to the DEA agents. They conducted some more investigation and tried to obtain a warrant for the recipient's house, saying that they will find more narcotics in the house. Now, the question becomes, would the facts that I just gave you provide enough probable cause to search the home? We're going to answer that question today, and we're also going to discuss ChatGPT. Even though it is a useful tool, I want to remind all of my viewers, lawyers out there, people who simply want to do some research, not to trust ChatGPT completely. And we're going to use this case as an example, as a silly example of what ChatGPT sometimes tells you that the case is about. Before we go on, I want to thank you for watching me here at the Law Stash channel. If you're listening to the podcast version of this recording on Audible or Spotify, please give my podcast a 5-star rating. And finally, if you want to support this channel, consider going to lawstash.com and check out some of the merch, including the Do Not Arrest This Person t-shirts, hats, and some other items. Thanks for watching.
Quick message from Law Stash. Are you charged with a crime? Or do you want to know your rights if stopped by police? Watch California attorney Anton Vieltsin discuss legal cases from the Supreme Court, Ninth Circuit, and California state courts on the Law Stash YouTube page. Anton has handled hundreds of federal and state criminal cases, has an in-depth knowledge of the law, and has the best mustache ever. Subscribe to the Law Stash YouTube page. That's LAWSTACHE.
Today we're discussing a Ninth Circuit case, United States versus Hendrick. Now, from the introduction, you already know some of the facts from the case, but let me do a quick recap. A customs officer at an airport intercepted a box. Inside, he found 5 to 7 pounds of cocaine. The box had a recipient's name and the address. However, we know that the way the box was shipped, it required the recipient to actually pick up the box in person. Now, the officer then gave the box to the DEA agents. They conducted some more investigation, figured out who the recipient was, that he actually lived at this particular address, and then they tried to obtain a warrant to search his home. And here's what the warrant said. Upon this evidence, and knowing that the box was at the airport in the possession of the DEA agents, the magistrate issued a warrant for a search of Hendrick's residence at North Sidney. Although the warrant states that on the premises known as 2835 North Sidney, there is now being concealed a cardboard box containing cocaine. It further states, this search warrant is to be executed only upon the condition that the above described box is brought to the aforesaid premises. Now, you already know that the Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures, and generally speaking, officers need to have a warrant before they conduct a search or seizure. Because your home is explicitly listed in the Fourth Amendment, it gets the most protection. And here, in this case, we do have a warrant, but the question becomes, was there probable cause to issue that warrant? The Supreme Court has explicitly and continuously reminded the lower courts that they have to analyze the probable cause, even after the warrant is issued, whether it was sufficient to issue that warrant. So here's what we know. If the box would have ended up in Hendrick's house, there would have been probable cause to search his home. But the magistrate knew that the box was not at Hendrick's home because it was in the hands of the DEA agents. So the question is, with such a prospective warrant where it says that if the box would make it to the house, then the officers can search the home. Is that permitted? Defendant accurately perceives the vice of the prospective search warrant. By issuing such a warrant, the magistrate abrogates to the DEA agent an important judicial function, the determination that probable cause exists to believe that the objects are currently in the place to be searched. Here, unless the suitcase were on a sure course to the house, for example, in the mail addressed to the home address, no probable cause would exist to believe it would arrive there. Hendricks had not even picked up the box at the time the warrant was issued. There was no assurance he would pick up the box or that he would take it to the house. Facts did not exist at the time the magistrate issued the warrant from which the magistrate could make the necessary judicial determination that probable cause existed. For probable cause to exist, there must be a sufficient nexus between the crime, in this case, the possession of narcotics, and the place to be searched, that is Hendricks's residence. And here, there is no connection. There's no evidence to suggest that the box with the drugs would have ever made it to Hendricks's house. And so without probable cause, this was not a valid warrant. So now you understand this case, and let's talk about ChatGPT. This is going to be sort of a silly exercise. You know what the case is about? We're simply going to ask ChatGPT, what is United States versus Hendricks all about? So I give it a prompt and ask to summarize US versus Hendricks. And it tells me here that this is the case that addresses the legality of certain government actions regarding the seizure of property under the RICO Act. Now we know this case has nothing to do with RICO. We just discussed the case, and it is a simple 2-pager case that talks about a box being delivered through the mail and about a search of a house. Has nothing to do with RICO. So I tell ChatGPT, I don't think this case is about RICO or forfeiture. And of course now it tells me, you're correct. My earlier summary was off the mark. Here's a more accurate summary. In this case, John Hendricks was charged with illegal possession of a firearm by a convicted felon under 18 U.S.C. 922 G1. Again, we know that this case is not about firearms. It is not about 922 G1. So again, it gives me a longer description of the case, but it's simply making it up. So again, I tell ChatGPT, I don't think this case is about firearms. Again, ChatGPT, I apologize for the confusion. Here's the correct summary. The case involved the conviction of Richard Hendricks. So if you notice, he keeps changing the first name of Mr. Hendricks, for conspiracy to distribute cocaine. Hendricks was implicated in a drug trafficking operation and was arrested after a series of controlled buys and surveillance operations. Again, we know there were no surveillance operations. We know there were no controlled buys. So this is a complete nonsense. I tell ChatGPT, I don't think this case involved controlled buys. Again, it tells me thank you for your patience, and here's the correct summary. Richard Hendricks was convicted for violating the federal law prohibiting distribution of marijuana. The case arose from a series of seizures of marijuana plants from Hendricks's property without a warrant, blah, blah, blah. Again, this case has nothing to do with marijuana. Why am I telling you this? Why am I trying to illustrate this example? Some of my clients have now begun to email me telling me that they've done their own research and here's what their case is about, and here's what the law says. Even though ChatGPT might be a useful tool, when we're talking about somebody's liberty, when we're talking about the Fourth Amendment, the Constitution, let's not rely on ChatGPT quite yet. As this illustrates, in some cases, ChatGPT simply makes up the law. It gives you the right citation, but the law is incorrect. So now that we have this lesson, let's all read cases, let's get educated, do our own research, and don't rely on the computers completely on giving us the right answer. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you click like, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to the podcast version of this recording on Audible or Spotify, please give my podcast a 5-star rating. And finally, if you want to support this channel, consider going to loststash.com and check out some of the merch, including the Do Not Arrest This Person t-shirts, hats, and some other items. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Wednesday.